Semi-live, I guess. Our first inaugural Hangout in the Holy Land, I think we're calling it. Land Grant, Holy Castle. I don't know. We'll figure out a title later. It's not important. I'm Luke Zimmermann,
I'm Matt Brown.
and we're here to talk about some Ohio State football, Ohio State basketball. Big week for both teams. Ohio State football is number 6 in the nation in the AP poll, the one poll in which they're eligible to be voted on. Definitely not a bad thing. We'll start there and work our way to basketball. We might be joined by Chris Kopik a little bit later, who writes to the site as well. If his computer problems clear themselves up, we'll see. Nonetheless, Ohio State football, big week coming up with Wisconsin, the much-hated Wisconsin Badgers, I should say. Wisconsin is a team that's kind of been Ohio State's nemesis for the last several years, particularly 2 years ago. Last year, got a little bit of revenge, upsetting them in the shoe in a national television game that I was at. It was unbelievably cold. I can't remember the last time I was that cold. But yeah, it felt a lot better after Braxton Miller threw that bomb that was caught by Devin Smith.
Man, I know that the whole Ohio State-Wisconsin hatred thing's really kind of picked up over the last couple of years. I'm just pissed at them right now because that ended my chance at the Oregon State-Indiana Rose Bowl.
Yeah.
I was mustering up every bit of energy to try to talk up Indiana, and then Wisconsin picks like the one game of the year to actually play competent on both sides of the ball. It's just
I know. I mean, that's the thing. Like we looked at Wisconsin earlier in the year. They played down to basically everyone. I think they played down to Northern Iowa. They played down to Utah State. Oregon State. I mean, Oregon State's apparently a good team. We didn't know it at the time, but everyone thought that was a really bad loss initially. It was Oregon State's opener. Wisconsin has since come out and played a lot more even ball. We saw them, last week play their best game of the season against a team that kind of, the Ohio State-Indiana game gets blown out of proportion. It wasn't as close as the score indicated. Gave up some garbage points, but nonetheless, Wisconsin looked the bill. The one area that we're all going to be talking about going into the game is, they're playing their third-string quarterback now, Kurt Phillips, I believe, and he only had 7 attempts last week. They're not going to be able to throw the ball seven times and beat Ohio State. That's for certain.
Yeah, and I mean, Wisconsin doesn't really have a great passing game, no matter who's playing at quarterback. They only really have one solid receiver, Aberderis, and after that, I think the next person has less than 20 catches on the year, and really their whole offense is based on give it to Ball, give it to White, and hope we don't have to chuck the ball 25 times a game. And if Ohio State can jump out to get to like a 14-0 lead and force Wisconsin to actually start throwing, I think that's going to be the best case scenario.
Yeah, I mean, I think the interesting part's going to be, I think when you look at the two teams, how they break down statistically. Ohio State comes in with this relatively prolific offense. It's clicking on all cylinders, at least at this point in this season. There's some definitely ups and downs, and they certainly tend to play up and down as a team as a whole to the caliber and quality of their opposition. But I think when you look at just how the offense has been clicking when we saw them against Illinois 2 weeks ago, Wisconsin's defense will, be that, I guess, unmovable object against, or unstoppable force against movable objects, whatever the cliche is. We're going to get it. Wisconsin's defense has been rather quite good. I think it's top 15 in the country. Ohio State's offense isn't quite, I think, to that caliber, but they are a very good offense under Tom Herman and Urban Meyer, with Braxton Miller kind of serving as the engineer to make the engine go. But I think, if they get some balance, if they're able to get some contributions. I was disappointed to learn that Bryonte Dunn, who looked great against Illinois, is going to miss the game. No guarantee he would have played a pinnacle role by any means, and so the rushing load's going to obviously fall on Braxton Miller and Carlos Hyde's shoulders as per usual. Jordan Hall, I guess we're getting a red shirt out of him at this point.
We're going to apply for one anyway.
That's the best case scenario, right?
Who knows what the NCAA is going to say, but we're done seeing him this year, I think.
Yeah, Rod Smith as a sophomore, I mean, I think he's been a guy that people had high hopes for the last couple of years, but he's finally looking the part this season. So getting whatever he contributes to the mix as well, just to kind of take some of the load off the shoulders of Miller and Hyde, I think is going to go a long way. From there, I think it's going to come down to Wisconsin's got really good linebackers, so that kind of raises some interesting questions about how the run game. I think if Ohio State was still playing that more traditional pro style single back or even I-form heavy run Dave and stuff like that offensive yesteryear, the walrus ball that we all both loved and hated so much. If that was the case, I think Wisconsin would match up really well. But because Ohio State's coming in playing more of a veer option, kind of like a power spread attack rushing packages, I think that it's gonna be a situation where Ohio State may be able to get away with some stuff that the last couple of years they couldn't.
Yeah, and that's really why I was so confused why the initial line has been Wisconsin plus a point and a half, Wisconsin plus 3. I mean, I get that they completely obliterated Indiana, and I understand that Madison has been kind of a house of horrors for Ohio State recently. But looking at this from just a personnel perspective, I don't think this is a really great matchup for Wisconsin at all. They don't have the personnel or the scheme to kind of take advantage of Ohio State's defensive deficiencies, like a Nebraska or Indiana might have. They're really to me, this looks a lot more like a Michigan State or Penn State matchup for OSU, and their malign defense has been able to handle those attacks pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Wisconsin on the whole. I know they're hot, and I'm guessing that and just the fact that they're at home. Ohio State maybe coming off a bye week is a question mark for the odds makers. I'm having a hard time figuring out why it's OSU +3 as well at this point. I mean, it started out like you said, OSU +1, and it swung that way to now they're 3-point dogs, a field goal. I don't think Wisconsin's a field goal better than Ohio State. Ohio State's definitely the more talented team, just in terms of the caliber of recruits that they have relative to the guys that Wisconsin's capable of bringing in. Whether or not Ohio State is a team is quite at the level. I know Wisconsin is very well coached. But let's not, like we just said, Wisconsin's on their third quarterback of the season. Danny O'Brien did not work out for whatever reason. They lost their other starter for the year due to injury. So, going with a third-string guy. Monty Ball has not been himself. Monte, pardon.
Wait, Monte it sounds a lot better than Monte. Monte Ball didn't show up for a couple of games.
Yeah, that was Brett Bielema's whole shtick. You're Monte again because you look good, but then he's been so uneven this year. I mean, last year the guy was almost a 2,000-yard back. This year, still very good numbers, but down by more than a yard. I think almost a yard and a half per attempt. So, it'll be interesting to see what they get in him. James White's a very capable number 2. I mean, it's the best rushing offense Ohio State will have seen, until they get Michigan, other than Nebraska, who obviously brings some very capable backs, Rex Burkhead, Amir Abdullah, and Taylor Martinez. So, Wisconsin, I think, does have some horses, and they've got a great offensive line. Usually, I know they lost Matt Canada's in his first year, coming from running kind of more of a spread at Northern Illinois into running Brett Bielema's, vanilla NFL offense. So I'm not sure if that's been, one of the reasons for growing pains. We'll have to talk with the folks over at Bucky's Fifth Corner, SB Nation's Wisconsin blog, to get some insight on that. We'll definitely be doing that later this week. But, I guess just in terms of kind of how you see the game playing out, I haven't done really a ton of research yet, matchup by matchup yet, but I think my inclination would be Ohio State probably wins this one by somewhere between 10 and 13 points. Kind of what's your gut feeling right now?
I think that sounds about right. I've done a little bit of reading. I've seen Wisconsin play a couple of times. They looked really quite awful against Utah State, who might be kind of a sneaky good, low major, mid major, but still somebody.
Yeah, I definitely think that they're a bowl caliber team. Gary Anderson's done great work there.
Yeah, but that's still a team that Wisconsin should be able to beat at home without needing to pray somebody misses a field goal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Their defense did an okay job, but not an exceptional job in handling Nebraska, which is probably the team in the Big Ten that's most similar to Ohio State in terms of offense. I think Ohio State's catching them at the right time. We're getting healthy. The passing game has looked better. I mean, I'm sure playing Illinois will help with that. But yeah. I figure that this will be kind of close in the beginning, and then there'll be a big defensive or special teams play, and then Ohio State kind of wins this between around 10, 13 points. Sounds about right to me.
Yeah, no, certainly. There was the car horn indicating that we move on to the next subject. Thanks for the transition. That's called a cue in the industry. Nonetheless, we move on to Ohio State basketball. We talked about Ohio State football, being 6th in the country. Ohio State's men's basketball team is 4th in both major polls. Opened their season against the likes of Albany, the Great Danes, coming in from the America East Conference, the Scooby-Doos. Yeah, unfortunately not able to get in that game against Marquette. We were both really looking forward to that one. It's an NCAA caliber opposition. Opening the season with that's always special, just to kind of help the guys get in the gear, higher gear, I should say, earlier rather than later. Didn't quite work out due to the excess condensation on the deck. And I don't know if you read that they're going to actually try to do the Carrier Classic again next year. I'm sure Thad Matta and James Smith won't have anything to do with it. But
I couldn't believe that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's you might be able to. Well, I guess there's not might. You definitely could continue to get that to work in San Diego or in places where the climate's going to be a little bit.
I think they might be able to make it happen earlier in the day, maybe.
Yeah, the women's game didn't seem to have too much problem. I gotta tell you, it was hilarious for me watching all of these announcer bros try to remember like high school science and try to I wasn't prepared to talk about moisture today. Let's kick it to you, Navy scientists.
Yeah. I appreciated Thad Matta saying that Aaron Kraft had to give him a dissertation on condensation and humidity and dew point and stuff like that, but. Nonetheless, they were able to get that opener in 2 days later. It stinks that they won't be able to play a team of Marquette's caliber, prior to the tournament, but at least outside of conference play. I mean, they get Kansas, they get Duke, so it's not a bad consolation prize, but I think every game counts. I'm always envious. Michigan State tends to lose a couple of early season games because they play an incredible out-of-conference schedule, and then they make it to the tournament and go to the Final Four every year. So By the time this thing goes live, Michigan State will have played. They're having a big game again tonight against Kansas, and they might open the season 0-2, but they'll probably still go to the Final Four or something silly like that. I'm actually going to go ahead and go on record right now. All Big Ten Final Four.
That sounds. You know what? Why the hell not? And Northwestern, Northwestern will sneak in as like a 12 seed and beat 3 teams.
Well, all we need is just enough high seeds in different draws, so we could have Ohio State, Indiana, Michigan, Michigan State, maybe even Wisconsin to sub in for one of those other 4. Hopefully not Ohio State, but definitely rooting for that. We'll see what happens. I think it's in Atlanta again this year, but in terms of what we saw on the court, Aaron Kraft having a breakout offensive game, scoring a career-high 20 points, hitting 3 of 5 3-pointers. Deshaun Thomas took a little bit of time to go. They keep calling him the microwave. I talked about this in the comments in the blog. I hate that because Ivan Harris was the microwave initially, a very similar style hot-cold player. Yeah. Thomas has obviously got a way higher ceiling than Harris, though Harris inexplicably wasn't McDonald's All-American like Thomas. Thomas is a great player. It took him a little bit of time to get going, and both Thomas and Mata said after the game that in past years, just due to his immaturity, he would have kind of checked out and not been the player that he is now, where he's able to focus, dig down, and find his shot. But he did do that. It's a big thing for Ohio State to be able to have that maturity from him, and it's kind of interesting. You saw Thomas at Big Ten Media Days that you were covering for us, and had kind of a hipster vibe going on, didn't he?
Oh, and well, I mean, his beard's like, so this is No Shave November, so I've gone 2 weeks and I look like someone who's like, like sucking down boxed wine behind the 7-Eleven, and Deshaun Thomas is worse than this. Like
Deshaun Thomas looked like he could be sleeping on, the street corner in the short north or something.
Well, no, he was very fashionably dressed. I mean,
right. Other than the facial aesthetic.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was maybe a little bit better than Adam Morrison, but probably Paul Pierce-esque. It was It was bad.
Not high praise, but nonetheless, he delivered more or less after a cold start. Aaron Kraft obviously was the offensive and just really star of the game in general after the game. Will Brown, Albany's head coach, said that Kraft was the best defensive player in the country and that he'd be a 10-year NBA pro. I've always compared Aaron Kraft to Steve Nash. I think he can make it at the NBA level, though much like Dan Sanzenbacher, who had a great video on the site that our studios, SBN Studios team did for us about Sanzenbacher's NFL career. He's going to have to probably do as an undrafted player. I don't think he's going to get the respect he deserves. Maybe it's a great workout. He can get a late second-round pick. I know Steve Nash coming out of Santa Clara was, I think, maybe the 31st or 46th, some late second-round, mid to second-round pick. Making up numbers here. Who knows how many teams even pick in the NBA draft, right? No, Kraft is definitely going to have his work cut out for him. But I think he can stick, and if he doesn't, he can play in Europe if he wants, or like Matt Sylvester, who was the color guy in the game. He was literally, I think, hitting on Aaron Kraft. It was kind of uncomfortable, but he pointed out that Kraft, if he wants to go be a doctor, I mean, he's smart enough to do something like that. Maybe he'll be the next. I don't know. He'll be some kind of astrophysicist or something. But
that's what Kraft
Tyson style or something.
That's what Kraft has consistently said. I mean, the NBA is his first choice, but he said over and over at media days, and I think he said this over and over before, that his plan is to go to med school.
Wow.
I think I'm not an NBA scout. I don't know if someone's going to take a chance on him in the second round, but I think he's definitely good enough to draw paychecks playing basketball somewhere after he graduates, whether that's in Greece or Spain or somewhere else. I want to touch on this one thing. I know this is just like one game, and Albany is pretty bad. I think they're like 231 in the Ken Palm rankings, but I was not expecting Ohio State to get out rebounded, and that I think is a little bit concerning. Just going from the scouting reports, I don't think we were expecting Ohio State to be an excellent 3-point shooting team. It looks like they shot 60% from three, and that's not something I think we're going to want to anticipate is going to be a regular occurrence. And I'd like to see Deshaun Thomas get more than 3 rebounds.
Yeah, I think some of that may have been positioning. Some of it may have been that Albany was behind and having to take threes, and then they were just getting there on rebounds. Still, given that circumstances, Ohio State should have been on the glass. Evan Ravenel had a really passive game. I think I made a comment to 11 Warriors, Chris, that Evan looked like he'd been out, to the short north or downtown at Park Street patio until like 5 a.m. He just looked like he was completely hungover and lost in the game. Williams also had a real rough game rebounding the ball. I think both guys combined for like something stupid, like 1 total rebound, 2 total rebounds. Like
it's
0 points. No, 1 block maybe. I mean, those guys were not on their game, and if Ohio State's going to go deep at all in March, they're going to have to, both in the Big Ten tournament and in the NCAA tournament, they're going to have to get better play out of their big men. I mean, that's just the bottom line. I think you talked about the 3 points makes. I think they're going to take a lot because they have LaQuentin Ross and they have Deshaun Thomas. Those guys are going to chunk a bunch of junk shots. Some will fall, some won't. We'll see. I guess in terms of anything that I was particularly worried about, Shannon Scott actually played a good game. I was kind of worried, how consistent he would be, but he looked good on both sides of the ball. Yeah, so I guess I'm pretty comfortable. It's one game. It's Albany. They've got Rhode Island in this casino they're playing in this weekend. So, and then from there, I think it's a tournament. They could either Seton Hall or Washington. Washington would obviously be a good caliber opponent. Maybe not quite to Marquette's level, but certainly of that ilk. Be nice to play them even on back-to-back days to kind of get them ready for the whole grind of the Big Ten tournament and the NCAAs. So we'll see what goes from there. In closing, we've been kind of hitting as many topics as we could, but let's go and wrap this thing up. Let's take it to national football super quickly. Any games? Obviously Alabama, Texas A&M jumps to the forefront. Anything catch your eye over the weekend in terms of the national college football landscape?
Well, I mean, obviously, I don't know about you. I was not expecting Alabama to not only to lose, but I figured they were going to win. They were going to cover the spread, which I think was like 14 points. There had just been this gigantic aura of invincibility. So it's for me, who really can't stand the SEC. This is hilarious. I'm glad that we're probably going to have a national title game without them. But
knock on wood, it's early.
Well, yeah, it figures. As soon as I say that, Oregon, Kansas State, and Notre Dame are all going to blow games. But
yeah,
I caught a little bit of the Oregon game too. They are really damn good. And it's
I think what jumps out at me for that team is just their defense. It's finally like half competent,
Yeah, I mean, and a part of that is it's kind of a drag since the Pac-12 wasn't really quite as good as we thought it might be going into the season, and some of these explosive teams have been less than explosive. But yeah, they're all so much more physical. I feel like the knock was Oregon was always going to try to out finesse you, and they'll do their little crazy running back things and their cute placards from the sidelines, but then when someone punches them in the mouth, they'll kind of wilt away a little bit, and that's definitely not the case this season.
Yeah, they're always really fun to watch. They had kind of an interesting start of their own right, I guess, against Cal, a team that gave Ohio State some more trouble than possibly they should have. But yeah, Oregon's certainly a team that if they have every possibility to win out, it's going to be really interesting to see if they can if they get UCLA or USC a second time, if they can win that game for the Pac-12 championship. It's certainly going to be in Eugene, which is certainly going to be advantageous for them. It should be a real ruckus atmosphere there at Autzen. I guess certainly the A&M game was just an incredible watch in and of itself. Johnny Manziel, we talked about him a lot on the site. Statistically probably better than Braxton Miller. I think Manziel might be more exciting, maybe because you don't expect it from a guy that's like 6'1", barely 200 pounds, like to do the things that he does. But I'll take Miller in his long stride any day of the week.
And he also has great Halloween costume hustle.
Yeah, Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, I think Johnny
Big Albany fan, maybe.
Johnny Football, the student athlete, the person, I think is going to be fun to see him on Every Day Should Be Saturday or across the internet, because I feel like there's going to be some funny stories from him.
Yeah, people may have seen on Twitter, he's a protected account, so maybe they didn't, but there are some retweets going around ESPN or I guess the Longhorn Network, so maybe no one did see him, but Chris Ricks, who's an analyst for the Longhorn Network, tweeted that he's heard rumblings from inside sources that Manziel is a rest away from basically being on the outskirts of the team. I mean, I could see Manziel being a party guy, maybe. I know he got arrested for a fake ID and lying to the police after a buddy of his was in a fight that involved a racial slur, which is never a good look. But I know Manziel himself wasn't the culprit. He wasn't the one. I think he was protecting his friend. But we'll see. If he does have some wild in him, maybe he's the next Casey Pascal at TCU. Maybe he's the next. I don't even know. Maybe the next Steven Garcia. But nonetheless, the guy can play.
we could only hope.
Yeah, fingers crossed. The material at ESPS will just overflow if that's the case. But nonetheless, joining me, Matt Brown. I'm Luke Zimmermann. This is the first. We don't know what we're going to call it. Land Grant Holy Cast. We're going to call it maybe Hangout in the Holy Land. We'll figure it out later. Until next time, stay good, Internet.
Take it easy.